Depending on where you get your news, you might have started the week hearing this phrase, constitutional crisis. There are concerns out there from some as the president continues to issue executive orders. Those orders have then faced lawsuits, and those lawsuits have then faced pushback from the president and his allies. To no surprise, the perception of these battles, their legitimacy, likely depends on your politics. Take, for example, Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar's comments Sunday on Face the Nation.
Yeah, I mean, what we are witnessing is a constitutional crisis. We are seeing an executive branch that has decided that they are no longer going to abide by the Constitution in honoring Congress's role.
And then on the other end of the political spectrum, here's what the White House press secretary Caroline Leavitt said on Wednesday.
The real constitutional crisis is taking place within our judicial branch, where district court judges in liberal districts across the country are abusing their power to unilaterally block President Trump's basic executive authority.
So is it a constitutional crisis? We'll talk about it in a moment. But first, here's some of the things that over the past few weeks the Trump administration has done that has drawn controversy. For example, firing inspectors general without notice, as required by law, ordering an end to birthright citizenship in the U.S., something in the Constitution, and trying to freeze federal spending of money appropriated by Congress. Just a few examples. So, constitutional crisis or not, joining us now with her analysis of the Trump administration's actions and the court challenges they're facing is the one, the only, CBS News chief legal correspondent Jan Crawford. Jan, thank you very much for joining us. I'm really anxious to hear what you have to say here, because you've got voices on the left who are saying that the president lacks authority to make these different moves, and then voices on the right who are saying that the judges who are trying to stop him, they lack the authority to stop him. So big picture, what's your verdict?
You know, Tony, I mean, there's truth on both sides. And so I think this is one of those where we kind of have to just take a breath and kind of meet in the middle here. I mean, obviously, there's no question that Trump is really pushing that legal envelope with some of these executive orders and actions, and some of that's going to exceed his executive authority. But there's also no question that some of the judges are going a little too far and putting the brakes on actions that Trump clearly has the authority to do. So, you know, what does this mean? I think this all shows that at least here, the system is working like it's supposed to. There's no constitutional crisis right now. People are suing over these programs, these actions. Judges are blocking them. Trump is then appealing that. He is not ignoring judicial orders. He is filing court papers saying that he has the authority. And on some of these, he is going to win. I mean, as we saw this week when a federal judge backed away from his earlier order and said that the buyout program Trump had wanted to do for 75,000 people who took it, that could go forward.
So, Jan, let's look at some of these individually. The example of the president trying to freeze federal spending, is that within his purview, or really should that be left to Congress, which has the power of the purse?
Okay, so I don't want to keep saying, well, it depends, but it depends. And I think on that one, like on a lot of legal issues, I know the devil is in the details, but it really is, because obviously the president can take a pause for some of this stuff and take stock of some of these programs. Are the grants going to the right people? Remember, President Biden took quite a while to dole out and start doling out all that money that Congress appropriated for the border wall. That was kind of controversial then, but he had the authority to do it because it was considered programmatic. Where it becomes a problem is where there are deadlines and specific things. And it appears that this is going to be some indefinite impoundment, as they say. And I know we all love to talk about the Impoundment Control Act of 1974, but that is a problem, because that law says that the president honestly cannot withhold these kind of funds. Trump is going to argue that's unconstitutional. He's going to try to challenge that law. And this is a case, this is an issue. You've picked up the first one, I think is the most important one, that could reach the Supreme Court, testing the bounds of the president's authority to withhold some of those funds. Does he have the discretion to do that under the Constitution? And is this law, 1974 law, unconstitutional?
Yeah, we always talk about that 1974 law, Jan. Thanks for pointing that out.
I know, it's crazy. Yeah, it's a big one.
So, but is it part of the president's strategy, you think, to have all of these executive orders, knowing that they're going to be challenged by law, in hopes that some of them get to the Supreme Court, where there could be a ruling that really sticks?
Yes, and there are several of them. I think it's very strategic. I mean, look, these executive orders, and again, some of them are not going to make it, but they were not written overnight. I mean, they spent months on these executive orders, and they targeted unpopular political programs or issues, and they also targeted areas of the law that they thought the Supreme Court may be about to head towards. And so there are a number of these cases they've teed up specifically for a Supreme Court fight, like the one we just talked about over impoundment and whether presidents can withhold money Congress has allocated. That's a big one. But there are other ones, including whether or not he can fire the head of the NLR, National Labor Relations Board, right? Mm-hmm. Let's get the acronym right. There's too many acronyms. Whether he can fire, that's the potential Supreme Court battle. So I think some of this was actually strategic, Adriana.
All right, you're going to be busy at the Supreme Court, Jen. Thank you so much.